Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a great couple of weeks. This week is actually my birthday, and I thought what better way to celebrate than to spend it with all of y'all and kind of a little chat about the status of the game right now, the RPG that we've been designing together. Last time we had talked about player fantasy and the overall design philosophy of this game. But now I want to delve into the specifics, into the themes of what the stories are going to be that we tell together. And if you're interested in learning more about that, here's a link to the previous video, and you can come back here and jump right in. Now let's jump to part one. What is the inspiration? What is the motivation that I have to create this game, for players to play this game, and for DMs to run this game? Well, I started by thinking about what stories I wanted to tell, and the thing that popped out the most was solo leveling, because I just binge watched the entire season, and if you haven't watched it, it's amazing. But animes in general give the player this idea of being an OP protagonist that has a special ability or something that sets them apart from the rest of the world, that allows them to create and modify their character to be exactly the way they want it. And that is the kind of feeling I want to focus in on for this RPG. Now, I know previously we had talked about like a simplified version of Dungeons and Dragons, and although I still love that concept, and there's some great mechanisms I want to implement that would be perfect for that kind of RPG, I realize that right now the thing that's motivating me, that makes me happy, is this idea of an isekai RPG. I don't want to fall into the sunken cost fallacy where just because we spent a lot of time developing an idea that we have to move forward with it and make it work. I want to pivot to this idea of a anime-based kind of very fluid, customizable version of the game, even if it becomes a little bit more complicated, because that's what's motivating me right now. And in the end, what makes you happy and what keeps you motivated to create is what you should spend time doing. And that is going to bring me to part two. The thoughts that are going through my head as I make this transition and what I want this new game kind of to be. And I think I can add some unique spin to this. Why would people play this game rather than watch the anime or play a video game from that anime? Well, I feel like an RPG does more of putting you in the shoes of the protagonist, in the shoes of the main character in this world. And there's a vast amount of worlds that you can play in. I could be in Bleach, I could be in my favorite anime, I could be in solo leveling if I wanted to. And that vastness of setting is what I want to be able to motivate people to create their own worlds and really be a perfect place to create a homebrew world. And it doesn't have to be just fantasy, like Dungeons and Dragons. And that brings me to part three, the character sheet. Before we jump into the next section of the video, I wanted to introduce you all to an amazing father-son duo that go by the homie and the dude. They are really great people who have been making D&D content for many years. Right now, they're starting a Kickstarter called the Scorched Basin. You can run your entire campaign here, or if you already have a world, this vast meteor site is the perfect location for players to discover and struggle to get back out alive. You can interact or join with 5 unique different tribes, encounter creatures and plants unlike anything you've ever seen before, and you can even discover awesome player options that they've included in this setting guide. Check out their Kickstarter pre-launch page that I've linked in the description down below, and use the code DSCOUT for a 25% discount on any purchases you make on their website. Again, any little bit helps the channel, and I really appreciate you all. With that, let's get back right into the video. Because I feel like when you are a player, this is what you're going to be building. This is going to represent your character. And it should represent what the players should expect from the game. Something about designing visual creations is that space and volume kind of indicate the importance of what you're showing in that area. If I'm seeing that the majority of this character sheet is numbers or skills or stats, then I anticipate that the game is going to prioritize that more. And I don't want it to be like Dungeons and Dragons, where every single thing you could possibly need is on the page, but split across 3 different pages. I don't want it to be so many things that your eyes don't have a place to focus. I come from a design background, and you want to simplify everything and use that volume of space to tell a story, to direct the eyes of the player or the person appreciating your art, really, to know what's important. And so I want half of the character sheet to be combat related, and I want the other half of the sheet to be not combat related, to be something related to roleplay, because that will tell my players and tell people who play this game that there's going to be a balance of combat and non-combat, and that what you do in combat is going to be just as important as outside of combat. First off, I wanted to have a single page that encapsulates everything you need, but I need it to be simple and direct your eyes section by section. So the first half of the character sheet, I wanted to make combat, and the second half to be more roleplay related. They can kind of have areas that go back and forth, but I want that to be the main idea. At the very top, I want the stats of the character, because that is going to be what everything else is derived from. And when you look at it, you can kind of get an idea of what the character is like by how their stats are split. When you look at a game, your stat window is one of the most important things. And so I want to be at the forefront, at the top, and really pop out to the player. Then I want some stats that are going to be the pulleys and the levers that we use to adjust this character's abilities. And then I want the stats, the actual gameplay mechanics that are going to be looked at, changed, and modified. So far, I have health points, or HP, and mana points, or MP. I think this is a very gamified version to represent how many hits you can take before you go down, and how much magic you have, how potent your abilities could be. And I like that idea because it simplifies it for the player, and they don't have this idea of progressive failure. You are the boss. You are the main character until you hit 0 hit points. You are completely on top of the world. And I want the initial stats to kind of represent what the players are going to be modifying, adjusting, and looking at when they're actually playing the game. Things like hit points, mana points, action points, speed, your exhaustion levels, that's all on here. And ideally, if we can fit it, all the abilities that relate to combat, that's going to be the second section, so that when you're actually in the middle of a fight, you only have to look in this small section on the first page. Although I anticipate it's going to take up the majority of that section. Then the next page, I want it to be all the roleplay abilities, things that affect how you talk to people, and abilities that you can use to affect the narrative of the story that's being told, as well as the items, because that's kind of the unknowns, right? Skills are known impacts, things that you implement or pay a cost, and they have a known effect. Items are things that can have further adjustments, but could then also be used for really creative solutions. There could be a large gap, a chasm that splits you from where you need to be. Well, someone could use an ability, but the people who have creativity and want to find out solutions can look at their items or their inventory and find ways to use those. They can have a ladder in there and use that to bridge the gap. They can have an item that allows you to traverse distances, and although it can only be used a few times, you can make that conscious effort to use an item rather than your skills. This allows players to really care about what they bring with them, and everything that they have is something that could be a potential solution to a puzzle that you run into. And with that idea in mind, I have a general character concept for the character sheet that I want to make, and I'm really looking forward to delving further into that. I think the next video might be a prototype version of that character sheet. I feel like we've been talking quite a bit. I've gone in a great direction of where I want to take this in the next video. So I want to give some honorable mentions of people that really helped inspire this video. Things like Brick, Daggerheart, Heart Inspire, Nibble, Card, Mouse Smitter, Blades in the Dark. All these things are just have their own thing that they're really, really good at. And I'm just really hoping to find the one thing that my RPG will be good at. And I was able to pull the things I liked from each of these things and put it into what I envision this game to be. I also want to give a shout out to Tales from Elsewhere. They have a very awesome combat system where there's no hit points. You're actually attacking a specific part of the enemy, something that they call called shots. And depending on if you hit a vital spot or just a regular limb or just the bulk of their body, you can do different types of damage and cause status effects. And I really love this idea of combat. And although it's not as thematic and it doesn't really fit well with the idea I have for this isekai RPG, I really want to incorporate it into the simplified D&D version. And this brings us to part 4, the honorable mention, the simple D&D concept. For those of you who really like it, don't worry, we're coming back to it. Tales from Elsewhere has an amazing combat system I want to incorporate, and Mouse Ritter's inventory system I think is perfect for this type of game. And we're going to come back to that in a later video, but I want to give a shout out to people who inspired those parts of the game, and don't worry, it'll get its day in the limelight. And one last thing, this balance mechanic from Avatar Legends, the RPG, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. There's a balance mechanic I want to incorporate that I also think could maybe fall into the how we handle RPG and role-playing abilities. Maybe we'll do that for the Isekai RPG, maybe we'll do that for simple D&D, I'm not quite sure, but I'm really looking forward to what happens next. If you're interested in maybe a live show or a live chat, join the Discord or let me know in the comments down below what you think, what you want to see in the next video, and I really look forward to sharing with you again the next stage of this creation. And now we're at the outro. Still haven't figured out what we're going to do here. If you have any ideas, let me know, but otherwise, take a look at these videos. I hope you'll like them. I don't know what I'm pointing at, but I know you'll love them. Check them out. Anyways, bye y'all. Have a great day.